Welcome in to Hardcore Penn State Football. Sorry, I had a little technical difficulty there. Welcome in to Hardcore Penn State Football. Penn State beats UMass 63-0. We'll recap that game, and then we'll begin to peek ahead to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Penn State takes on Ohio State this Saturday at 12 o'clock. Lots and lots to talk about. We'll also have some film room today as well. So make sure you like the video and subscribe, whether you're listening on the podcast form or watching on YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody. Shout out to Todd Swanger from Shirleysburg. OSU is going down this time. And we'll get going 3, 2, 1. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Sean Kane. How are you doing today, Sean?
Felt like there was some extra oomph to that introduction today, Cory. I'm doing well. I was at Penn State this week. Got to see the win over the UMass Minutemen. That game was over in a minute, man. But yeah,
that was pretty rough.
Good weekend.
That wasn't your best one. Like I told you guys before, our trivia name was the Minutemen, which made a lot more sense. But honestly, UMass was also in this game for about a minute. So Penn State dominates 63-0. Sean, I don't remember off the top of my head. I guess I can go back in my notes here. You had 59-8. I had 63-3, and PSU Dylan had 66-7. So you guys both need to apologize for assuming that the defense was going to give up a touchdown. I need to apologize for assuming they were going to give up a field goal.
Yeah. Manny pitches, Manny and the defense, they pitch another shutout. That's the second of the season. First one was to the vaunted Brian Ferentz offense at Iowa. So, yeah, anytime you don't give up a point, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a shot in the arm to the defense. They already know how good they are, but it's still awesome to go and get it done. Defense was sharp off the bye week. That was something we were looking for. And the offense, after, they're a little sleepy in the first quarter, but after that, they were rolling. And I have some breaking news, Cory.
Let's hear it.
Jalen Harvey, who Penn State has recruited for a long time, and we have talked about for a long time, has decided where he's going to school, and he will be a Penn State Nittany Lion.
Breaking news on a pod, live.
So that just happened. I just watched it. It was on his Instagram Live. So, yeah, very happy to be able to reel him in. Penn State beat out USC and Maryland to land him. He is a Maryland native himself. Fun highlights to watch. Good first step. A lot of speed, a lot to work with, good frame, good offer sheet. So very, very happy to be able to add Jalen Harvey to the class.
Yeah, and it's awesome that we're doing it live, talking about it now. Harvey, was a guy that Penn State really wanted. I think he went to the same high school as Chop Robinson, which was
Orchard. Quince Orchard?
Yeah, Quince Orchard, yep. And guy that Penn State wanted, same with like Malachi Williams. And based off of the On3 pod, I mean, I think he might be able to even move inside at some point, depending on where his build takes him. So thought this commitment was going to be wrapped up a long time ago. Took him a little bit longer, but decided to land with Penn State. So that's, that continues to get better and better for the Nittany Lions so far.
Yeah, he took the scenic route, but he's in the fold. So there aren't many spots left in this class, but Jalen Harvey, he had, Franklin after the Iowa game, gave him a big hug, talked to him for I don't know, probably about 30 seconds there in the high five handshake line. And so it seems to have worked. So this is one that Penn State has really wanted. And like Cory said, we thought we'd be wrapped up with him in June, but we're there now. So all is well.
Yeah. And just again, shout out to Deion Barnes for a
Yeah.
really solid 2024 class, his first recruiting class as a defensive line coach. I mean, this is, no knock, but this is kind of what Penn State was missing for a little bit there. They weren't getting all of the 4 stars and whatnot that they should have. So this is big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's tough for a first year position coach to get the reins like that. And, a lot of the recruits did know Deion Barnes. He had been there for quite a few years now. But he wasn't a position coach. So to be able to put together a good class like he did deserves a lot of credit. Same thing with Marquise Hagans. Now, he was more of a known commodity. Virginia had offered a lot of guys, but they didn't necessarily land them because of some challenges at the university itself. But he is a little more well known, where Deion really had to make himself known, especially outside the city of Pittsburgh, or not Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap up the defensive line in this class.
Well, let's get back to UMass.
Yeah.
We'll go over some quick thoughts. We'll talk some offense. We'll go in the film room a little bit. We'll talk defense and special teams, which I'm sure we'll talk first thoughts about special teams in 1 second. And then we'll wrap it up with fan questions. Your fan questions. I think we have 7 questions today, and we'll very much transition us into the Ohio State talk. So UMass a little bit here at the beginning, and then by the time we wrap up the show tonight, we'll be completely talking about Ohio State. We will have tomorrow on Twitter at HardcorePSUFB, we will have our film breakdown in its entirety there. So, but really, we'll be thinking Ohio State. If we're not thinking Ohio State already, pretty much halfway through the show tonight. So, Daquan Hardy, I think, deserves to be spoken about first, Sean. Daquan Hardy, again, hardcore Penn State football is very much in the Hardy fan club. Have been for a long time, has been an unsung hero for Penn State for a while now. And everyone wants to talk about Kalen King and Jordan Porter Jr. and Johnny Dixon, even Cam Miller, who had a really good game, getting a lot of the love. The safety's getting a lot of the love. But Daquan Hardy has been kind of that sure thing in the middle of your defense, playing that nickel dime look. He's been fantastic there. And a sure tackler, and did phenomenal job against wide receiver bubble screens, did a phenomenal job on pass deflections, and had returned 2 previous kick returns. I think he may have fumbled one. First time getting a chance in the punt return game, and he ends up housing 2 of them for a touchdown. First time that's ever happened in Penn State football history. It's only happened a handful of times in Big Ten history. And provided maybe the spark or maybe just one more thing to get you a little bit of confidence as Penn State heads in the second half of the season.
Yeah, at a place like Penn State, where it's all things considered a top 10 football program of all time, to do something that no one's ever done before is incredible. And it doesn't matter that it was against UMass. Like, we've played teams like UMass before, and that's never happened. To be able to house 2 of them and to, do it 2 different ways too. Like the first one, it was just so well blocked. He read his blocks well, got there. The second one, he really showed off the Jets. I mean, it was really, really cool to see. And you had to be happy for a guy like that who's been there a long time, who's done a lot of good work at Penn State, had to fight and claw to even get a scholarship. He was the last or the second last addition to his recruiting class, and he had to do everything he could just to get on scholarship. And then to go have a really, really great career as our nickel for the past 3 seasons. And now to be able to add punt returner to your resume and to do something that nobody else has done here. I mean, that's what college football is supposed to be all about, I think. So, and Terry Smith has talked about him as a potential NFL player. He's convinced he's going to be drafted. When you have a guy who James Franklin says is the fastest guy in the team, and who also plays with a lot of with a good amount of physicality for his size, and that's the one thing that will, that's the one that's the one knock against him is his size. He makes up for it with his physical play and with his speed. So, I mean, you can't say enough good things about him.
Oops, I've disappeared.
There you go.
There I am. Yeah, Sean, I just, yeah. And I'll show some on the film in a second, but some of the things he's doing from a corner perspective is just phenomenal. And I understand that everybody wants to talk about Kalen King and wants to talk about Johnny Dixon and even some of these safeties. Daquan Hardy's just done just so many good things for Penn State so far this year. And going into Ohio State, knowing that Daquan Hardy's probably playing his best football makes you feel a lot better going against those Ohio State receivers. He's probably not going to be lined up with Marvin Harrison. He might not even be lined up with Emeka Egbuka. But what? It's so bad that I never remember his name. Hold on, give me a second. It's not going to come to me, Sean.
NEPA zone, Julian Fleming.
Julian Fleming. I swear I've erased him from my memory because I can never remember his name. But he will probably be lined up with a Julian Fleming. And so having trust in that, because Ohio State has those 5 stars across the board. It's not just Marvin Harrison, although he is spectacular. That makes you feel better. But also, they love to run their bubbles. And right now, Penn State's done a really good job against the bubble. So, Daquan Hardy, first thing I wanted to talk about because I think he deserved it. Next thing I wanted to mention was the fact that this game really wasn't, you couldn't even really take much out of this game from a defensive perspective because it was such an unfair matchup. And they did not get to the 10 sacks. They ended up at 7. I will argue that if they would have played their starters the whole time, they would have.
It felt like 10.
Yeah. It was just not even a fair matchup. I mean, it just was not fair. And the defensive line was completely overmatching anything that UMass could do. They were mass protecting at times. There's sometimes it was 3 against 6. And Manny Diaz was still able to get his guys in the backfield. So credit Manny Diaz for schematically beating UMass. But then Adisa Isaac, Chob Robinson, Denai Dennison, Devon Ellis had a huge game. They just completely overmatched, overpowered, finessed, just dominated that UMass offensive line. Now, obviously, Ohio State has a better offensive line than UMass. And I know a lot of people are talking about Ohio State's offensive line as if they're bad. I wouldn't say they're as good as they were last year, but I don't know if below average is even the right word. They're a good offensive line still. We'll talk a little bit more about them, of course, later in the show, but it does give you some confidence that this defensive line is playing some of their best football right now. I saw a crazy stat, Sean. Penn State has had 3+ sacks in 10 straight games. It's just crazy. Or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Did I say that wrong? Yes. No, I don't think I said that wrong. What did I tweet that earlier? That was a Big Ten network stat. So let me just double check that real quick because I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah. 3 or more sacks, 10 straight games.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the amount of pressure they've been producing. And another guy I want to talk about too, Cam Miller. Cam Miller had a couple sacks. The one sack that he had, he just went right around the left tackle. I mean, just that speed. And some guys have a knack for that at the corner spot. Johnny Dixon does as well. Through half the season, I believe last year, Johnny Dixon was was the guy leading in sacks on the team. So Manny loves to use those corners to blitz. And like I said, some guys just have a way of getting to the quarterback from that corner spot. And yeah, the defensive line was totally dominant. I thought that was probably Devon Ellie's best game here. Just they couldn't block him either in the run game. The defensive ends, again, what more is there to say? Chop was Chop. He also, shout out to him. He just got that NIL deal. If you haven't seen that, I believe Cory tweeted it out on our account. It's a cool ad. It's a cool NIL deal. So that was cool to see. Adisa Isaac continues to be just a one-man wrecking crew from that defensive end spot. I think he's made himself a lot of money this year. It was a smart move for him to come back and have a full season completely healthy, and he's playing at a level we haven't seen him play at yet. So just all across the board, a lot of the young guys got in, played well. Tony Rojas had a few tackles himself. Zion Tracy got in for a while. Dom DeLuca had I think it was ruled a blocked punt or pump block. He got a piece of it. I think that was the same one. Correct me if I'm wrong. That went off Cam Miller's back.
Correct.
And that's just an unfortunate thing. Not really on anybody there.
Did Dom get that? Are we sure on that?
I think Steve Jones said it counted.
I just want to double check that because I thought Donnie. Donnie Collins actually asked Dom DeLuca if it was him who blocked it, but Trey Potts was the one that actually blocked it.
Oh, okay. My mistake. Trey Potts then.
So Trey Potts, mind you, has continued to show a lot of different ways. I mean, just understand this, people. Trey Potts has thrown a touchdown pass. He has ran for a touchdown. He has caught a touchdown. And now he's also blocked a punt this year.
Yeah, he's awesome, man.
What an addition out of the transfer portal for James Franklin in this stat. I mean, coming and not even the fact that he has also contributed in the rushing game when there were moments they really needed them to. For example, at Illinois.
Northwestern.
Just so many examples. Northwestern. So Trey Potts just knocking out of the park right now.
Yeah, I mean, him and Dom are very similar, offense and defense. They just do their job. They play at such a high. They play like every play is their last play, and that's really what you want. I mean, if you have a whole team with that mentality, you're not going to lose many games, if any. Just their approach to the game, and just their love for football. It just when you watch them play, you really see it. Keaton Ellis had an interception. I really was hoping he'd get the pick six. I don't think he's had a pick six at Penn State. Fortunately, he got called back. But that's 2 turnovers for him this year. I predicted 5 to start the year, so we're almost halfway there. 2/5 of the way there. So overall, like Cory said, it's hard to take a ton out of this game, but Penn State's defense has dominated these teams how they're supposed to. There haven't really been any hiccups. I think the worst moment of the year was probably against West Virginia when, West Virginia ran the ball well, but West Virginia has a really good offensive line. They have, I still stand by this, the second, who knows, maybe even the second or first best offensive line will play this year. So I'm happy we played them because I do think that's going to prepare us for Michigan. And there's going to be a lot of looking back at that. But outside of that, I mean, they have just dominated every team thoroughly. So you can't be much happy. I don't think it's possible to be much happier with how the defense has played so far this year.
Yeah, and then again, just like we mentioned with Daquan Hardy, the defensive line, the entire defense right now is playing with a lot of confidence, and that's exactly what you want. Now, how great is this defense? We'll find out next week, but you can't ask to be going into that game with any more confidence than you do right now. So they've been able to stop the pass. They've been able to stop the run. They've been able to get after the quarterback. And 27 sacks on the year, which if you include at least one bowl game, or what James Franklin said at one point, the postseason, which maybe thinks he has some confidence, that this Penn State team will make it to the playoff. They very well could get to my 50 sacks on the year. So they are ahead of schedule at 27, and they still have at least 7 games because Penn State is also bowl eligible now, Sean, which no one really cares about because they expected it, but at least should be mentioned at least once.
I was telling my buddy I was at the game with. Remember when we were just so thrilled to be going to a bowl game, and now it's like barely mentioned because I was like, oh yeah, we're bowl eligible now officially, and we're all like, yeah, that's good. But that just shows you the progression Penn State has made since James Franklin's been here. 2014, 2015, we were a mediocre team, and then we got beyond that, and then we kind of circled around, and now we're back to that. And this week, guys, to bring it back here, this is the week that we could look back on and say it propelled us. So, I mean, I know James Franklin didn't want to talk about Ohio State yet, but we're going to talk about Ohio State tonight because that's who's next, guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Penn State did lose the turnover battle for the first time this year, which if you would have told me at one point this year that Penn State was going to lose the turnover battle, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But to lose the turnover battle of all teams to UMass, I think is kind of like a trivia question at some point in the future, because not the team you necessarily expected to lose a turnover battle to.
Yeah, not at all. And if you could give UMass credit for anything, I think you have to give Fumachan credit for not turning the ball over because, man, that guy had no chance at all. We were in the back, like I said at the beginning of the pod, it felt like 10 sacks because they were just all over him. They couldn't get any kind of run game going. The receiver, Simpson, who we talked about, he was pretty much a non-factor, and he's a good player too. We said going into the game, they have 3 guys that are good. The quarterback, running back, and the receiver. You couldn't really tell. Their offensive line was totally overmatched. It was bad. It was bad to watch. So yeah, losing the turn. You don't like to see that. I was hoping Harrison Wallace would have a little bit better start, although I think he played well. To fumble your first pass and then second pass. Now watching it live, Corey, I don't know if you agree with me or not. I thought it was more on Drew that pass that Harrison Wallace missed. You from where you sit, you probably had a better view of it than me. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, the ball was literally coming right at me basically from where I sit, and the ball was thrown to the perfect spot. I mean, first of all, I thought Harrison Wallace ran a great route. Sometimes in those routes, you're worried about getting pushed up against the sideline. He gave him plenty of space to the outside of the numbers. Like he ran a good route in that sense. And the ball was thrown correct trajectory to the right spot. I thought it looked like it did glimpse off of Trey Wallace's fingertips. That's what it appeared from what I could see. The film, it's still hard to necessarily tell. I will give neither of them the blame and just say it's the fact that they haven't played very much in the last month together in real game time, and I'll move on from it. But I'm not going to really blame either for that. I thought it was a good route. I thought it was a good ball. And maybe it was just off by a smidgen on the timing. Maybe it was just the defender just playing it almost good enough. But it did look like it maybe just barely, grazed his fingertips.
Come on, man, we're Penn State fans. We got to blame someone here. Who gets the blame? Whose head do we want? But that's really what I saw too, that it just went off his fingertips. And although, like I said, he did settle in and played a good game. And then the Cam Miller turnover, I mean, that's just something that happens. Went off his back. It was a line drive off a block punt. Didn't really get mad at that.
Yeah. And his fumble, very obviously Trey Wallace's fumble, very obvious a fumble. But watching live, it did not seem that way. But very obvious on television that it was 100% a fumble.
Yep.
I will say
tweeted that out too. I was like, I can't tell. Is that a fumble? And almost everybody said, yeah, it's a fumble.
I will show some film tonight, obviously more on tomorrow night. Trey Wallace being back was big time for Penn State. He beat man coverage at least 3 or 4 times, and Drew Aller went to him pretty much right away. Good comeback route, got him the first down. One drag, the slant that was a fumble, but still there's a one drag route. And then there was the other drag route where he actually made a guy miss and almost could have scored if he breaks one more tackle. So Trey Wallace coming back was good. He had some good blocking efforts too. I think, we talked on the pod before. I had brought up, I think it was during the Northwestern game, that they haven't ran the bubble screen as much. And I'm wondering if it's because they don't trust the receivers to block as well on the outside. Now that Trey Wallace is back, what's the very first play? Get the ball out to Keandre Lambert-Smith, back-to-back bubble screens, I think, with Trey Wallace blocking for him. So I think they feel better about the quick passing game with Trey Wallace back in the lineup. So that's got to make you feel a little bit better, because having two weapons on the outside that can beat you in man coverage makes you almost want to play more zone, and that gives more opportunities for those tight ends to make some plays in the middle of the field. So if you're a Penn State fan, you got to feel much better about where the offense is and I know he had the fumble, which makes it kind of crazy, but with having Trey Wallace back.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point too about the bubble screen. You want, and Harrison Wallace is our is our best blocker from a receiver perspective. And almost, it's been talked about before, almost all Keandre Lambert-Smith's catches are for first downs. So he moves the chains, and that just gives us one other way to move the chains. Mentioned the tight ends. They had 3 touchdowns between them. The people have wanted the tight ends to get more involved in the passing game. Tight ends were involved in the passing game, and that was very positive to see. Tyler Warren's a touchdown machine. I mean, the guy just catches touchdowns. I think he is definitely the guy that when the field gets smaller, Drew Aller's going to look to. And it wouldn't shock me if Ohio State, with their 3 safety defense, they try to take him away when they get down to the red zone. I think that'd be the smart thing to do. Use one of those safeties just to be on Tyler Warren, because that's where Drew's going. Theo Johnson had his best game from receiver perspective of the season. He had a couple touchdowns. That leap, it was pretty cool to see him. He's a hell of an athlete, guys. I mean, he
absolutely no reason
to talent. What's that?
No reason to leap. 0 reason. He could have literally walked in the end zone. There's like 3 yards between the defender, who, by the way, Rapplier was blocking fine, and the pylon, and he decided to jump anyway. He actually ends up jumping over Rapplier, which I think Rapplier was actually supposed to get the ball in that play, because after the play, Rapplier was a little confused, and he said, kind of shrugged his shoulders, and I don't know if that was because he got jumped over or what, but it seemed like maybe the ball was supposed to go to Rapplier originally, and I'm wondering if Drew Aller just saw how wide open Theo Johnson was and just checked it down right away. But Rapplier was running a route to the corner there. And Rapplier played a bunch. I think that's technically only his 2nd game now that he's played in. But anyway, Theo Johnson, very good. Should mention that Khalil Dinkins did not play, and Rapplier was in at the Mike's or the, I don't want to call it the fullback spot there, to replace Dinkins. So something to keep in mind there. Also should mention that that Rapplier, I think, came in even before Jerry Cross did. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah, Rapplier was the 3rd guy. He was in the T formation. Did a good job from everything I saw. I hope we have Khalil Dinkins back next week. It would be nice to have him. He's, a lot of game experience. We trust him as a receiver as well as a blocker. But yeah, I thought Rapplier did his job. The offensive line, again, that's like one of those things, kind of like the defense. It's hard to take a whole lot out of, but they did what they had to do. I thought the running game was good. Nick Singleton played well, and God Olu was out by the beginning of the 3rd quarter. So that's expected that. It was a mismatch. That was evident pretty quickly. I want to give a shout out to Nick Dawkins. He was in at right guard. He came in pretty early for Sal Wormley, so got a lot of guys, a lot of reps at the offensive line, and I thought they played well, held up well in pass protection. Drew got sacked once, but we're playing Dr. Blitz. He's gonna get something.
Yeah, and I can actually show that play a little bit later. But Vega Ione just got beat by himself real bad on that play. Just an Ole kind of block there. I think you covered all that pretty well. Drew Shelton played a bunch of football. Bubbles back. Let me see here. I wanted to mention this, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think Penn State they were definitely using the clap cadence, which they've used that at times, but it seemed like they were almost completely working with the silent count clap. And I think that was in preparation for Ohio State next week, where they'll have to be on a silent cadence. So if you were there, you could literally hear how loud Drew Aller was clapping to snap the football. But I think that was in preparation for next week, because I don't remember them using that cadence all the time. So that was something to keep in mind there. I also wanted to mention, let's talk running backs, because Nick Singleton did not have that breakout game. I will show you the film and show you yet again, there were one or two opportunities for both running backs to break one, and they just needed one more block, needed an offensive line to get to the next level, needed a receiver to block one more person, needed to not just trip. I think the running game actually looked really good. The offensive line actually did a pretty good job of getting to the next level a lot of the times. Just maybe sustaining those blocks a little bit longer would help. But I thought the offensive line did a really good job getting the next level, all things considered. The running game seemed better when Kaytron Allen was in. Just no ifs and or buts about it. Nick Singleton did some really good things. I think he actually ended up with more yards than Kaytron Allen. But Allen, first of all, had multiple runs where he carried people like 10 yards, and just continues to find a way to be like leaky, like doesn't have to have a big hole and just kind of squeaks through there and is able to pick up a bunch of yardage. So Singleton did some good things, but if I'm going to Ohio State next week, I think Kaytron Allen's my starter.
Yeah, Kaytron's been the better back so far this season. There's no question about it. And, Singleton did have more yards than him, but Kaytron also had a lot less carries. Nick Singleton had 15 carries. Kaytron Allen only had 9. So, you're going to usually get more if you have more carries. Overall, though, I thought Singleton played well. He... again, a common theme for this team this season has been in the run game has been getting positive yards. They don't get stopped behind the line of scrimmage very often. That's been a constant, and that's important. That's important. You don't want to be working behind the sticks. That's just something Penn State hasn't done with both positive run games, and Drew Aller hasn't gotten sacked very often. So we're staying ahead of schedule. We're staying on schedule. And that's very important. I'm not going to say, though, that I'm not disappointed that we couldn't get a big run in this game. Well, we did. Tank Smith. Shout out Tank. He had the longest run of the season for Penn State. He had a 39-yard run.
That's a good point, John.
Yeah. So, we're happy for Tank, but...
Do you, when he was running and that guy was chasing him down, he tried to throw that stiff arm and he got absolutely obliterated. That was the funniest thing, man.
He kind of looked like the dog that catches the car. Like he kind of stopped and then was like, I can't outrun this guy. I'm just going to try to
run over. He was like, this guy's going to catch me. I'm going to try to throw a stiff arm. And he couldn't even get his arm out there. He got ran over. I don't even understand how he got hit like that from that angle. Like, I don't understand what happened. But
yeah, he kind of stopped. And I think he should have just kept going. And he wouldn't have beat the guy, but I think if he kept going, he might have been able to knock him off because Tank's a strong guy.
Right, and low to the ground, like make him dive at your ankles, make him jump on your back and carry him. But yeah, when he slowed down, that other guy did not slow down.
No, No, he was full speed ahead.
So, I mean, I agree. By the way, like I'm not ready to call it a red flag, but I'll throw an orange flag out there.
Yeah, it's getting there.
And you know, it's not like it's bad, right? Like it's not like it was 2 years ago. They're moving in the right direction and they're picking up first downs. But the question's always going to be, can they do it against good talent? Can they do it against good teams? And they'll have an opportunity this weekend. So if they're able to just do the same thing against Ohio State, they can eventually just say, okay, this is what they are. But again, I'll keep going back to, we have seen Nick Singleton break the long touchdown runs. So I will refuse to believe that it is not just in the cards anymore. Because that to me doesn't make, it's not like we're running out Brandon Jacobs every time and he's just never going to break a long touchdown run. Like they have the ability to do so. And so we have seen it with our own eyes. But I mean, I know Katron Allen doesn't give you, Katron Allen maybe gave me originally the vibe of better for the Michigan game from the standpoint of being more physical. But after watching Ohio State the last 2 weeks, I really think maybe being a little bit more physical early on and wearing them out inside a little bit will create more opportunities for Nick Singleton later in the game to bust one.
I mean, guys, that's how Michigan's beaten them the last 2 years. They're just more physical at the line of scrimmage. And a guy like Katron's your power back. And I think I agree with Cory. I mean, you have to ride Katron Allen. And Nick Singleton got the start last week. I know they've been alternating sort of. So I do expect Katron to start. I think he should start regardless, though. He's your best back. He's the guy you trust to be able to go. He's your most consistent back. And I mean, we went through the numbers last week and they probably changed a little bit. But going into this game, Singleton is averaging 3 yards less a carry from last year. Katron, he's averaging less, but it's less than a yard. So it's almost statistically insignificant. So the drop off isn't with the whole running game. Trey Potts is averaging more yards a carry than last year. I think it's mostly on Nick Singleton. And I don't want to just like put it all on one guy. We do have to be able to break longer runs, and that involves a lot of different things. But I just think he's missing some holes that are there, and he's being too patient. And I think he's thinking too much.
It will be very funny when Nick Singleton breaks 2 long touchdown runs against Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, and in our group chat, I forget who said it, if it was you or a buddy. It would be great if he could be our Donovan Edwards this week and be able to break off a long run when we need it, because he's still that home run threat. He's like Aaron Judge in a slump, you know. And he'll get out of it. I have faith in him. It's not. I'm happy you brought up 2021. It's not like that. In 2021, the backs weren't these guys. I mean, Noah Kane post injury, he was very slow, very, very slow. And Katron's a good back. He's not like these guys. And the offensive line is way better.
Yeah,
way better. I mean, this is one of the better offensive lines in college football, and that offensive line was not. So I don't want people to confuse it. Did they have a similar issue in not getting long runs? Yes, but they also couldn't pick up first downs with any kind of consistency. And this running game has had zero issue with that.
I'm gonna have a little bit of a hot take for you, Sean. Penn State running game looks good on paper, but a lot of that is because Bo Prabula just runs like a battering ram down people's throats late in games and picks up big chunks of yardage. And I know they have success at times, but so I think people are looking at the stat sheet and thinking, oh, Penn State's got a good running game, a great running game, I should say. I think they have a good running game right now. I wouldn't say it's great yet because of the Bo Prabula inflation. That being said, I don't like the idea, and I know we're probably getting a question about this tonight. I don't like the idea of using Bo Prabula against Ohio State. To be honest with you, he struggles at times to run the ball against tired opponents late in games. Now, he usually ends up busting one, but every once in a while he'll only pick up a yard or two. Against Ohio State, I'm going to imagine the percentages shrink as far as the opportunity to break a couple tackles, because those guys aren't tired 2 stars. They're now tired 4 and 5 stars. And those guys still make a lot of big plays. He won't be able to outrun those guys as easily as he's been outrunning some of the competition Penn State's faced so far. I just really don't like that package unless there's really no other way Penn State thinks they can move the football, whether that's a 3rd down and 1, a 4th down and 1, or a goal or a red zone or a goal line opportunity. I really don't think you go to it. And if you do go to it, I think it kind of screams that you don't have confidence in your offensive line or your running backs to get the job done. So if you see it, I think maybe that is more of a telling sign that maybe it was always planned for this. I think you could honestly see a decoy situation where maybe he comes out on the field and they line him up just to get people to pay attention to him, and they just run a normal play. I just don't know if Bo Prabila. Now, I don't want to take anything away from him because I think he's a great athlete. But in a game against Ohio State, I don't want to count on Bo Prabila to win me the football game. I want Drew Aller, I want Nick Singleton, I want Kane Allen, I want Keandre Lambert-Smith to win me the game instead.
Yeah, this is something that is being discussed pretty widely because James Franklin has, as somebody who's mostly pretty secretive, he has said there's a Bo Prabila package. And we know he likes to keep things in-house and everything. And I respect that, especially being that's a big wrinkle if you put him in. Yeah. If we're struggling running the ball, and that's a big if, because I'm not sure yet. I think that's one of the keys to the game is being able to run the ball. I could see him coming in, and I'd be all right with it. I don't want a situation where he's shoehorned in the game, though. Think Tommy Stevens as the Lion in 2018. It's a very forgotten about part of the game. In the first quarter, we're moving the ball pretty well. Tommy comes in, and the whole drive falls apart because everybody knew Tommy was getting the ball. And Tommy gets the ball. I think we ran some reverse, if I remember correctly. And I think Tommy was going to throw the ball, and Ohio State swarmed them. And then it's 2nd and 20, and you're not going to pick it up. You're not going to pick the first down up. So I don't want to see that. If we're struggling to run the ball, like in the 3rd quarter, it's a close game still, or we're even ahead and we're trying to salt the game away or trying to keep a lead, but the running game still isn't where we want it to be. All right, you want to put Bo in to run a few times, okay, but it has to be the right situation, and that requires your offensive coordinator and James Franklin to have a feel for the game and how the game's going in a way that I just don't think Ricky Ronnie did in 2018. And it wasn't the only situation in that game where he didn't have a feel for how the game was going to go.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because, I know people are going to want to, talk about that and if they're going to see it this week. Let us know on YouTube if you're watching live what your thoughts are on it. I'd be curious where everyone kind of stands on this because I think, again, I could see him on the field being a decoy. We'll talk about Ohio State in a second, but they also have a similar package with their quarterback as well. So maybe a little bit of gamesmanship going on there as far as what you have. But look, if Penn State can win by running the ball inside zone, outside zone, and play action, they're going to try to do that until they have to do something else. So any other thoughts on offense, Sean, before I show some film room and then we'll talk quick defense? I don't think defense is going to be as much because I think we talked about it a lot. And, UMass is really bad.
Well, if we want to, do we want to touch the vertical passing game thing?
You knew, Sean, that they were going to come out and go deep, hard, strong, play action pass and try to throw the ball over the top to Keandre Lambert-Smith. I'm guessing that UMass may have had an idea that I was coming too. But I mean, Corey Geiger was up there smiling when that. Oh man, that was just funny. And of course, Drew had to check it down, but that was pretty funny. That's gonna make you laugh.
Oh yeah, that first play too. We were looking deep and just wasn't there. Yeah, I mean, in all honesty though, we didn't really have that deep vertical passing game yet. Drew played well. I thought he was good. But we didn't have those. We took some shots. We just didn't connect with any of them. Drew finished with 162 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And the vertical passing game still wasn't there. That press conference, that made me laugh. I knew it was going to be a soundbite too. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
So, Drew Aller right now, 12 touchdowns passing, 3 on the ground. He's got 15 total touchdowns, no turnovers, and yet again, Sean, no interceptions. Did not see that interception against UMass. So Penn State's going to have to go into Columbus. Drew Aller has not thrown his first pick. We do not know, because he also didn't throw one last year. We do not know how Drew Aller reacts to a turnover yet. And maybe that doesn't make you nervous. Maybe it does. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I understand it to a degree. As a superstitious man, I did kind of want to see him get the first interception out of the way in a way, but I would much rather him just not throw an interception next week. And we keep going with this streak. Do I think Drew Aller is going to curl up into a ball after he throws his first interception? I don't. I think this kid is way mentally stronger than that. This is a kid that his first college game gets thrown into the action on the road, hostile environment, and play. And I think it's the most famous drive ever to end in a punt. But goes in there and has that poise. Now, is it a whole different animal playing Ohio State? Absolutely. I expect him though to totally melt down after throwing his first interception? No. And eventually it's gonna come. I just hope it isn't this week.
We'll say this.
Do it against Indiana.
Ohio State is 68th, tied for 68th in the country with West Virginia, of all people, with 0.83 interceptions per game. They only have 5 on the season so far. So it's early in the year.
Banged up too.
Yeah, and Denzel Burke. It's early in the year. To give you an understanding, Penn State only has 2 more interceptions at 7, and they're at 24th. So a lot. It doesn't take very much right now, but to jump up in those. But in the early prognosis of things, Ohio State not like number 1 in forcing interceptions or something where you're like, okay, they're actually really picking. They're not the 2021 Iowa Hawkeyes out there picking the ball off.
Yeah, and I think it feels like almost all those came against Talia Tagovailoa, who becomes Talia turn the ball over.
That's true. I mean, he had at least 2, right?
Yeah, I think he had 2. And
yeah.
Oh, great. Maryland. We have to talk about Maryland for like 10 seconds.
Well, how about this? I'll pull up the pick'em standings real quick here.
Yeah, then we'll get into it.
Not a good week for the pick'em for pretty much anybody except for shout out to PSU Dylan, who was 7 out of 8.
Yeah, I know I didn't do that great this week.
Nobody really did that great that week. There's the standings. I am still tied for the top with another Cory. So the Corys are ruling the world right now. Tied for 69 points, which is very nice. But as you can see, so the best score you could have got last week was 8 points. Dylan got 7. And then I think 3 people got 6. And then everyone else is a bunch of 4s pretty much. Maybe there's just 5 people got 6s there. A lot of people also didn't do it last week. A lot of 0s on there. I think we only had like 25 people that did it. So don't forget to do your pick'em. It's already open for this week. And you can't really miss more than 1 week or you'll fall very much behind. I can announce that we will have a signed Christian Hackenberg jersey for the winner. So I don't know if that is a signed Penn State jersey that is signed by Christian Hackenberg. I'm assuming so. But anyhow, so the winner will get that. And no, Cory and Shawn cannot win the award. Nor can the guest picker. I guess we could cut up in a bunch of different sleeves. Like you get a sleeve and you get a number and you get but no, so that's what you're playing for. Second and third place will also have something too. Make sure to get your pick 'em in. The link is in the YouTube description. It's on the podcast. It's on Twitter. You can find it. If you can't find it, DM us and we will send it to you as well. Shawn, you were in the lead there for a little bit. You're falling behind a little bit.
I know. We just got to rally. We'll get there. We'll get there.
But it was really
I'm only 3 points off too, so
yeah. It was really just Wisconsin and really Maryland that messed things up quite a bit. Do me a favor, just put your camera slightly down just a little bit, or stand up straight. Either way. Let's defensively, I guess, just real quick.
And LOL Maryland.
Yes, LOL Maryland. Shawn appears to be right about Maryland yet again. Linebackers, I thought played an okay game. Actually, showed some plays where I thought they didn't do great. But again, it's very hard to judge them because it's just nothing. Every play looked the same for UMass, like play action, pass, or read option or something, and then it was either blown up in the backfield or like they barely got the ball away. But it was like the same play over and over again. I wrote something, but I literally wrote hard to evaluate the defense on my notes here, which I think is fair as well. Do you have any other notes real quick before we go to the film room?
No. I mean, I know we talked about defense before. Question for you: Johnny Dixon or Kane?
Shawn, that is a fan question tonight.
How about that? We're on the same wavelength. Okay.
So
we'll save it for fan questions.
You'll have to wait on that one. That's funny though.
Yep.
Okay, let's go to the film room. See if this works.
Movie time.
All righty. So should still be able to hear us. Yep. This is still Northwestern, I'm aware. I'm choosing a play at the moment. Shawn, is there anything specific that you would really just want to see that would make you happy?
Show the Theo leap.
I can do that. Maybe. Yeah, give me 1 second here. I have a couple things I want to show too. One thing, how about I show you something that's better than the Theo lead?
Let's see it.
That I think you probably saw, but it's probably gonna make your day if you didn't see it and you missed it. Happened late in the game and was just awesome.
Is it Tank?
And it was not Tank, not related to Tank. Let me find it here. Should probably find a better way to display these things here. Okay, here it is. Transition over. How about Tamir Robinson just blowing up the running back? Did you see that live?
Yes. Oh my God. I don't think I noticed though.
Just completely decapitates the running back there. Just absolutely kills him. Late in the game, it's 56-0. If you want to go find it at home, 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 7. And Tamir Robinson obviously just kills the UMass running back that's trying to block him, but just doesn't do a great job whatsoever. I love that one.
Kids are all right.
Love that one a lot. Yeah, that was a good one. That's a good one to open things up with. I wanted to show this one. So This is
Oh, do you have the Hardy PBU too?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So this is 3rd and 6, still 0-0 game. And right actually before Daquan Hardy's punt return for a touchdown, UMass is going to go trips to the top of your screen. And then they're going to actually motion a guy over. So they're actually in quad. And as you can see, Penn State actually doesn't really react to this very much. They've got 3 guys over there, another one kind of in that direction. But, I mean, if you're UMass, you think you actually might have a chance of picking this up. Bad snap, which doesn't help things. The pass is not great. And receivers are trying to get ready to block. Well, Daquan Hardy does a phenomenal job here, top of your screen on this receiver. Look at him extend his arms, but keep outside leverage. I mean, that is just perfect. I mean, you can't fight off a receiver block any better than that. Look at the pursuit by Jacobs and Carter and Winston. But, I mean, that is literally perfect. A good job by Reed over there, too, on his block as well, and Miller as well. But, I mean, Daquan Hardy just absolutely owns this play. I mean, you literally cannot do a better job than what Daquan Hardy does. And again, Penn State's about to play Ohio State. Ryan Day loves his wide receiver bubble screens. That stuff gets you pretty excited about what they're going to be able to do. So Daquan Hardy, this is right before his punt return for a touchdown, and he makes that kind of play, which is awesome.
Yeah, great example of the guy who makes the play doesn't get credit for the tackle, but that play doesn't happen without him. Because Cory's right. I mean, they have the numbers on the outside, over on the left side there, and no problem. I mean, and just the pursuit that everybody has, and that it really epitomizes the togetherness that this defense is playing with right now.
Yeah. All right. So another 3rd down, 3rd and 9. Daquan Hardy already has the punt return for a touchdown at this point. Very next series, just phenomenal pressure yet again. Good job by Fumachan, actually. And then Daquan Hardy makes the amazing play again. Penn State's playing straight up man coverage here. Dixon, Kalen King get their man. Hardy's having to play on this drag route across the field. He has to run to this defender all the way across the field. And it's actually a really good throw. Just an absolutely great play by Daquan Hardy. A full extension here and breaks up the pass. Basically, at this point, if you're keeping track at home, Daquan Hardy has the stop on the 3rd down on the 2nd drive of the game. He has a punt return for a touchdown, and then he has a pass breakup on 3rd down. Like, that might be one of the best orders that a Penn State defensive back has ever had. I mean, just amazing the stuff he's able to do. And then real quick, just looking at the defensive line, I know they didn't get home. Abdul Carter does a phenomenal job. I think he actually gets held really bad there. Chop Robinson gets held really bad right there. But just completely incinerated the pocket, which they did time and time again.
Yeah, Daquan Hardy, a.k.a. Charles Woodson. I mean, just the layout, the effort, after you already return a punt for a touch, right after you already return a punt for a touchdown. I mean, that's everything you want right there. And great hustle play. That was a play that I saw that was close to where I was. And watching it live, I was like, damn, what a play.
I'll show you this one. It's not the best. 3rd and 14. This is the sack. Just going to show it real quick one time here. Big Ione, left guard, just gets beat real bad. Just a great play there. Wooden gets in there, that we said was a pretty good player for them. But, I mean, you can see he kind of stands up a little bit. He just kind of fell for the jab step. And then tried to reach for him. Good breakaway arm bar there. And then he's already won at that point. But 3rd and 14, maybe like to see that ball. I mean, that ball, honestly, didn't even have a chance. They only end up rushing 4. So just not a good job by the Penn State offensive line there.
Yeah, that one's on the line. I mean, sometimes you see a quarterback get sacked. It's on the quarterback. This one was not. They just got beat. And that happens. You just don't want it to happen against the Ohio States of the world. And it's okay to say that now that they're on the schedule, that they're next.
All right, this is late in the game. 3rd third quarter, 2:22 left, 3rd and 1. Watch Jamil Lyons here playing on the edge. Kind of just gets fooled. I mean, he rushes reckless abandon inside, and ball is actually pulled, and it's an easy first down for UMass. I only show this play to say, hey, like, we showcase the one, I think it was during a West Virginia game on Tony Rojas.
Yep.
Similar thing, right? Like, that's your responsibility to stay home. Looks like Rojas is scraping over the gap pretty well. He has safety support. Ellis actually doesn't make a great play either, because he should be able to. He does a good job getting around the corner, but because he didn't fight off that corner in a way that maybe Daquan Hardy did earlier, because he tries to just sneak inside, he actually loses the angle and that can't make the play there. So in a perfect world, you'd actually like to see him go maybe fight to the outside on that if you're Keaton Ellis. But that play doesn't even happen if Jamil Lyons stays home. But I will say it's nice to see Jamil Lyons out there, because he did not play in the previous game. So
yeah, I think he was a little banged up. But yeah, this is the type of thing that you see oftentimes with freshmen. Like Cory pointed out, Tony Rojas gave up a touchdown against West Virginia, and that's on a read option. But hey, Manny will go over it on defense with Deion Barnes, and he'll get better from it. I agree with you, though. Keaton Ellis should have been able to pack him up better. You want to see him make the tackle there, although I think the angle he took wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, let's wrap up with an offensive play here. Maybe I'll show 2 offensive plays. I want to show one where it potentially could have been a touchdown. And there's just so many good plays, but I'll save some of them for the tweeter that come out tomorrow. I'm trying to find one where it's a touchdown if we just block a smidgen better. Maybe I find it. Maybe I don't. Trying to find. Okay, here it is. Aha. Found it. Okay, late in the game. 8 minutes ago, 3rd quarter, Penn State already has some backups in the game, and especially in the offensive line. Alex Burkmeyer's in the game, number 63. Watch him carefully. This is just going to be a simple outside zone. Singleton does a great job. I mean, that to me is putting your foot in the ground and running with vindication. Like, that was great to me. A lot of people complain, like, oh, he's not, making decisions. That's a great first step. And he is gone into the races right now. I mean, look where number 21, excuse me, look where number 21 is. Look where the other safety is on the other side. He's already getting blocked by Wallace, and he's actually about to engage Wallace even more. Wormley's already got to the next level. Warren's kicked out his guy. It's a touchdown, except that Burkmeyer wasn't able to wall off his defender. And again, that's the defensive tackle we said was good for UMass. So that's a good play by him. But as you can see, this is a touchdown, right? If Burkmeyer is able to just get around that defensive tackle and that hole's there, I mean, this is a touchdown. That's how close it is to being a touchdown, people. I mean, no one else is even going to. I know Rappelier's guy is starting to maybe get a little bit loose here at the end, but that guy, Rappelier's linebacker, is not going to be able to get to that hole if Burkmeyer is able to seal that up. There's no way. Singleton's already gone. And that's how close he was. So I wanted to show that one to, again, show you guys how close Singleton was to breaking one. Because, again, he put his foot in the ground and he was gone and just barely got caught. Still picked up 10 yards, but wasn't able to get maybe the home run.
Yeah. And, like we said earlier, it's not all on Singleton that the home run ball isn't coming. It's just holding up a little bit longer, and that has happened several times this season.
Yeah, I'll show one more of these. So, similar thing, but this time it's because of Trey Wallace. So Katron Allen probably isn't going to house this anyway. But if this was Nick Singleton, it's probably a touchdown. Zone gets through, breaks a tackle, big chunk play, good run, great run. Fantastic blocking by the offensive line. I mean, this time, look at what I think that's Burkmeyer in there right then and there as well. Or is that Dawkins? I think it's Dawkins. In there. Good blocking by everybody. Ty Warren actually blocked really well in this game. But watch, if Trey Wallace gets this block on this defender, Nick Singleton houses it. Katron Allen maybe gets caught from behind, but it's still probably a 40-yard gain. Because if he gets that block, this guy's not there. And I don't know if 12 from that angle is able to actually get there. Instead, Katron Allen has to run that guy over, and then number 12 still barely gets him. So I don't even know if 12 actually even gets to him if Wallace makes that single block right there. And he goes inside too much. And I don't know why. But if he just doesn't take that next step inside, he has him. And it costs him. And yeah, again, great. Good run. But those are the small little things that make a difference. And that's how close they were from two big runs on just two plays that I chose.
Yeah, it's the little things, right? And James Franklin's now infamous 2018 press conference, he talks about after the Ohio State game, he talks about the little things, getting the little things right, and that's part of it. The little things are the difference between a 20-yard gain, where we're like, oh yeah, 20-yard gain, and a 60-yard gain. So just have to hold our blocks a little bit longer. I mean, the effort's definitely there. It's not that; it's just the execution.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Trey Wallace, I still think like they're very happy to have him back and have him helping out in the blocking department. But that's just one of the ones where you're just like, why'd you take that extra step inside? You just stay where you are, let him come to you. Again, I don't know if Allen houses it, but it's a bigger game at the very least. Okay, let's talk Ohio State. A lot of these fan questions are around Ohio State today. So that's what we'll get to in a second. Before we get to that, Sean, just some updates on Ohio State. Injuries, big deal right now for Ohio State. They are not healthy at the moment. Travion Henderson, the running back, I think it sounds like he's going to play. They don't know how healthy he's going to be. To be honest with you guys, from listening to the Ohio State podcast today, they don't know how much they love Travion Henderson from the fact that he's kind of like the Nick Singleton for Ohio State, home run hitter, but hasn't really been able to break a bunch of tackles this year for them. And so that's kind of the vibe I've been getting around Travion Henderson this year. Obviously, Henderson had a pretty good game against Penn State 2 years ago. But that's Henderson. Wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka. Sounds like he's like, I don't know right now. Ryan Day said after the Maryland game that it wasn't a season-ending injury to Egbuka, which that doesn't sound great. But it also sounded like maybe they were holding him out last week against Purdue just for precautionary reasons. So I would expect him to probably give it a go, but I don't know if he'll be at 100%. Mayan Williams, also another running back, not sure if he was going to be able to go. He actually didn't play against Penn State last year. And then probably the biggest one, Sean, I think we'd agree on this, Denzel Burke is currently shaken up, their corner. Ohio State wasn't a very good pass defense the last 2 years. Much better this year. Burke has had a good year for them. Big time if he's not at 100%. Now, they play a lot of shell back defense, keep everything in front of them. Think Iowa to a certain degree. Now, they mix it up a little bit more, but they like to play back and let their defensive line get after people. But you wonder how much that maybe changes if Burke isn't able to go.
Yeah. I mean, they are more injured than Penn State is for sure. Penn State fans are very familiar with Travion Henderson from the last couple seasons. He's a very good back. Like you pointed out, I think Mayan Williams got hurt during the Penn State game. I think early in the game he got hurt and missed the rest of the game. And then Denzel Burke. If they were going into the season, if there was one thing Ohio State fans were worried about besides the quarterback, Kyle McCord, it was the Ohio State secondary, and it's probably the one thing on their defense that they're a little concerned about. So to lose him would be significant. So yeah, they're a little beat up, no question about it. Like you said though, I mean, like Ibuka sitting out could just be a precaution. Penn State, I mean, and I hate to be like this. I don't want to like look over anybody, but it feels like, especially now that we're past the first half of the schedule, it feels like it's a 2-game. It's almost a 2-game season at this point. And Ohio State also, they have a 3-game season. They play Notre Dame early in the year, and they won that game, and now they got this one. And if there were any guys that they were iffy about going into the season, or if there was anybody iffy that they felt iffy about going into Purdue, they weren't going to play. So, yeah, I'd rather be Penn State from a health perspective for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I should also say too that another running back that actually exited during the Purdue game is Chip Trainum, and he might have a concussion. We'll have Ryan Day's press conferences tomorrow, so we'll have a better understanding tomorrow for the Wednesday show. But you're talking about 3 banged up running backs. The only one left who Ohio State fans wish would play more is Dallin Hayden, who they think actually could be the best running back on the roster. So keep in mind there, something to pay attention to as the week goes on. But yeah, I would say Penn State's definitely a little bit more healthy right now. The Devin Brown package is something I wanted to bring up. Penn State fans should keep an eye on. They have a quarterback, Devin Brown. He's a hunk. He's a big guy. They showed a red zone package where he ran in for a touchdown. He also threw a touchdown, so he has the ability to do that. Not sure, again, that's just gamemanship, kind of like, hey, you got Bo Previla, we got Devin Brown kind of thing. But something definitely to pay attention to, especially if the running backs are depleted. Do you go to that on a 3rd and 1? Do you go to that on a 4th and 1 because you don't necessarily trust? I don't even know right now, to be honest with you, Sean, if they don't have Mayan Williams, I don't know if they trust Travion Henderson on a 3rd and 1. Like, he is not a bruiser kind of guy. Like, would you be willing to go to – would you even prefer a Cade Stover, their tight end, getting back there and running the rock versus maybe a Travion Henderson who's just not as big but is quick? I don't know, but that's something else to pay attention to as the week goes on here, and we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, going into this game, I think it's the first time that there have been 2 non-mobile quarterbacks. Both teams having, relatively non-mobile quarterbacks. I don't know. Do we have to go back to Anthony Morelli versus Todd Beckman? And those are
probably
2 names from the way back. But yeah,
well, Haskins wasn't, but McSorley was.
I mean, we've had years where we had a mobile quarterback, they didn't, vice versa. But God, you're usually always expecting some fireworks from the quarterback spot, as far as a runner. Like last year, Cliff was more mobile than Stroud, and so you would have that element to it, and both teams are thinking, or at least making the other team think, well, we do have this mobile quarterback on the bench that we might play. So yeah, watch out for Devin Brown. And really, I mean, what do you, to me, like the keys to this game, make Kyle McCord beat you and be able to run the ball. And if you could do both those things, I think we're going to win this game.
Noah Gideon on YouTube says, personally, I believe we matched up perfectly with Ohio State. Our pass rush is going to be too much for McCord because he'll be forced to throw the ball. Thoughts? A lot of thoughts on that, Noah. We will continue to get into those thoughts into the fan questions in just a second, and we'll continue those thoughts all the way into Wednesday. But thank you for being here. I think you're barking up the right tree, though. Just a weather report for you. As of Monday night, it's supposed to be high of 58 degrees with a 24% chance of rain. So not likely going to rain the whole time. Should be okay, if all things considered. So I think maybe it helps the game being at noon sometimes in that regard. But that's besides the point.
That is Sean approved weather.
Yeah, especially when you're sitting at your couch and not having to be in it.
I was in it last week.
Let's get into some fan questions now. So to wrap up the show here, let me go to this. Oops, let me go to this screen, and let's go to your question that you had first. I can't believe that you brought this one up. So this question is from Dorito Bandit. This far into the season, who do you feel is better, Johnny Dixon or Kalen King? Who do you have more confidence in if PSU goes man coverage on Marvin Harrison, Penn State or Ohio State's wide receiver? Sean, since you asked me, I'll answer this question first. And I will say Kalen King is better, but I do think Johnny Dixon brings different things to the table. I think Johnny Dixon is a better blitzer, and I think that's why you've seen Kalen King maybe not blitz as much, but also maybe they trust him more in man coverage, and they're more willing to bring a Johnny Dixon. They're more willing to bring a Cam Miller or a Jalen Reed. But also, I think Kalen King just also isn't crazy big. Now, I will say this about covering Marvin Harrison. First of all, Marvin Harrison's very good, if not the best wide receiver in the country. Did really well against Joey Porter Jr. last year. Penn State maybe didn't challenge him as much as I'd like to see. I'd be curious to see how Manning plays it this year. But Caleb King does give up, I think, like 4 inches on Marvin Harrison Jr. So he has the size advantage over Kalen King. So it's going to be a fun matchup from that perspective. But my answer is King is better, and I would trust King more in man coverage. But to be honest with you, I think you do different things to Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, I don't think you just lock in man coverage the whole time. I think you try to put a safety on him sometimes to beat him up a little bit. I think you try to, bracket cover him. I think you do different things to make him feel uncomfortable. If you line up and just play man coverage, I think McCord still throws it and gives him a chance. But if you disguise kind of what we saw Keaton Ellis's interception with the robber safety over the middle, or bracket coverage with the safety over the top, just do different things to confuse the quarterback. They even did that last year on the play that broke our backs on the slant route. I want to say it was Adisa Isaac who was supposed to back up from the defensive end spot and get into the slant throwing lane and wasn't able to get there. And it was a simple slant pass for first down. And everyone's like, why weren't you on Joey Porter Jr. up close? Well, it was because the defensive line was supposed to get out there and sit in that lane, Anthony Zettel style. So I think they are going to do different things. I don't think you can just do one thing. I don't think you can just line one corner on them the whole time and say, beat us. You got to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver in America. Probably going to be a top 5 pick. And it's relatively difficult to be such a high draft pick as a receiver, but unless you're really special, and he is that special. So you have to acknowledge that going into this one. To answer your question, I think Kalen King, I think the cornerback position is interesting because the less you hear from a guy, usually the better he's doing. And teams are not throwing at Kalen King this year. They are just not doing it. They're staying away, especially with the quarterbacks we've played. It's not exactly been a murderer's row of quarterbacks that Penn State has played so far this season. So you're especially staying away from Kalen King because you know what he's capable of. But Johnny Dixon's answered the bell because they have been going at Johnny Dixon, and Johnny Dixon has made them pay. So from a statistical perspective, yes, Johnny Dixon's been better, but that doesn't tell you the whole story when you're talking about the cornerback position. Who would I have more confidence in? Kalen King. Kalen King is the most technically sound cornerback probably that I've ever seen at Penn State. And that's really saying something, but the way he plays really from day one, he just doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He just always in the right place, and his instincts as well. So even though he's given up a little bit of size to Marvin Harrison, if you're technically sound, you can make that up. There was a guy, I'm going to mention the Dolphins. His name was Brent Grimes. 5'10", undrafted free agent. Everybody said he's too small. We used to put him on Calvin Johnson. And he would do well against Calvin Johnson because he just knew how to play the position so well. He was so cerebral. He was so smart with the way he played. And he had the athleticism to do it. So I think I see a little bit of that with Kane, except he's taller than Brent Grimes.
Feisty is how I would describe Grimes and King. Feisty. And I think they both possess that trait. To a similar tone, Aaron asked, can Penn State neutralize Marvin Harrison and Cade Stover? I really think the second part of this question is the more important one, because I think Marvin Harrison's going to get his regardless, right? I mean, he's going to probably have at least 75 yards and probably a touchdown. Like that would probably be what I would put the betting line over under, at least. Maybe even that's disrespectful. I don't know. But Cade Stover to me is the difference maker, because I have seen them go to Cade Stover when they really need big plays, whether it's against Maryland, whether it was against Penn State last year. Like Cade Stover is a guy that they're going to try to get the football to, and he to me is their X factor in a certain way. Can Zakee Wheatley, can Jalen Reed, can Keaton Ellis, can they cover Cade Stover? Can Abdul Carter, can Curtis Jacobs, can they cover Cade Stover when they're asked to? That to me is, and the thing is, they don't just throw the ball to Cade Stover on a corner route. It's like always like some wide drag route off of a play action boot that the ball's been flipped back 10 times and then Cade Stover's wide open. Like they find innovative ways to get their tight end Cade Stover involved. That to me is scary right now if I'm a Penn State fan and the Penn State defense, because it's easy to lose him. And then we saw when Penn State's defense got tired, he broke multiple tackles last year to get in the end zone. So Cade Stover, I think, is the person. I think you can maybe neutralize Stover. I don't think you're able to neutralize Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I think you could maybe do what Notre Dame did, and that's slow him down a little bit. But still, at the end of the day, guys, he was the one that they went to down the last drive of the game, so he still killed them in the end. And that's what he's capable of. But Notre Dame does have the blueprint for slowing him down. I'm gonna rewatch that. I'm gonna watch that game because Penn State was playing Iowa at that time, and see just what they did and really focus on Marvin Harrison. But yeah, I mean, when you have a guy like that, it's very hard to just neutralize him. And I agree with you on Stover. Like Stover's their best tight end they've had in a while. Since Urban got there, tight end is the one position they just don't use a whole lot of, and mostly it's because they always have three awesome receivers. So
yeah,
you tight end gets neglected.
They feel like they do well against Penn State though. Marcus Baugh had a couple he had the touchdown in 2017.
No yeah,
he had a touchdown. Was it Stoneberger? Stoneberger? I feel like three of them had like German last names too. But yeah, I would agree with you, except for Marcus Baugh. I think Marcus Baugh hurt Penn State enough where I'll remember his name for a long time. Had a touchdown in the 2016 game too,
right before halftime. Yep. But I agree with you too. Stover's always wide open. Like every time he catches the ball, he's just running across the middle of the field with nobody around him, and that's part of having Marvin Harrison Jr. because a lot of times your safety is probably occupied with Harrison. So there goes Stover, and he could kill you too.
All right, this next question is from Parody Against. He did ask, do we see Bo come in on special package throughout the game? We already kind of answered that today. I will focus on that second question. Does Trey Potts get some early work to keep the legs fresh for Nick Singleton and Katron Fat Man Allen? Short answer, I think, is no. However, I will say this, Sean. If they need a spark early second half, maybe even second quarter, depending on how things are going, I would not be surprised if Trey Potts gets out there. I think you're going to see Allen at first, Singleton second. But if let's say this game doesn't go Penn State's way early, I could see them going to Potts. They went to Potts, like you said, against Northwestern. So Yeah, I think you could see them sooner. I don't know what you consider early work for Trey Potts because a lot of it's happened in the second half. But yeah, I mean, I think it's 100% possible you see him in the second quarter. Um, reminder, reminder, 2017 and 2018. Why did Penn State lose that game? Inability to run the ball in the fourth quarter. What would this do if you let Trey Potts have a series or two in the second quarter, third quarter? Maybe keeps Katron Allen a little bit healthy. Let's say they neutralize Nick Singleton completely, and Katron Allen is playing a lot of that first half, third quarter, whatever. If you were able to give two good series out of Trey Potts, where they go down, score a touchdown, maybe get 10 points in two series, and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are healthy and ready to rock and roll for the 4-minute offense in the fourth quarter, that's a game changer. So I think that's 100% a possibility where Trey Potts gets a series or two in the first half.
I think so too. I mean, he has been very good when called upon this season. And a big thing with James Franklin is trust. James Franklin trusts Trey Potts. He's been in these games before. It's not his first rodeo against the Michigan or an Ohio State. So he trusts him. He's been here. He's more experienced than Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. So, yeah, I think there's a possibility that you could see him, especially if the running game needs a spark. We talked about Bo. I think you also have to talk about Trey Potts as the guy that could come in. Maybe we could see a little Trey Potts, Bo Prabul at the same time action.
That'd be exciting. Let me look up something real quick. This might be a complete nothing, but I'm going to look it up just because. Yeah, okay. Trey Potts, 2021, Minnesota versus Ohio State, 10 rushes for 34 yards. Didn't do very much that day, but Mo Ibrahim had 163 yards and two touchdowns.
That's when he got hurt.
Yeah. Yep. But I wanted to look that up. That 2021 is the last time Minnesota and Ohio State have played. So I wanted to look that up, see if maybe Trey Potts had a secretly awesome game against Ohio State. But no, that's not the case.
But he still got some experience.
Yeah. Random fun fact for you. Ohio State, Minnesota only played twice since 2018. So.
Yeah, I mean, we only played. I think James Franklin's only been to Nebraska once.
Yeah. Let's go to this question. Let's go to this question. Brendan Malinovich. I understand it's UMass, but Devon Ellis was a man possessed today and has been very solid throughout the year. Is he your first string defensive tackle? I agree 100% with the sentiment about Devon Ellis, who shout out to his family. We tailgated with them for the Outback Bowl. And he did play phenomenal. I love the hair. Tonight he was wrestling people to the ground. He looked fantastic on Saturday. I think you got to rotate all those guys. If he's going to compete and battle like that, great. You have Beeman. You have Durant, who had a really good game against Northwestern. You have Izzard, who's had his moments against Illinois. Like, defensive tackles have shown up in different times for Penn State this year. And that's phenomenal. That's fantastic. And remind you that now they're moving Chop Robinson inside a bunch. So, yes, but no. Like, you can just keep rotating those guys, keep them all fresh. It's fantastic that he contributed. It's fantastic that he's going to be able to give you 10, 12 snaps, maybe up to 20 snaps, depending on how he's playing. But you got to just keep rotating those guys. Keep them fresh as you can, because you don't know what kind of game you're going to go into in Columbus on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's not coach speak to say we don't really have starters at defensive tackles, it feels like, because we rotate so much. I mean, you have, 5-ish guys that play like starters, really 4, in Ellis, Durant, Beeman, and Izzard. And yeah, I mean, Devon Ellis has been very good this year. I think he's especially a good complement to Zane Durant, Zane's speed. And then Ellis is so stout there in being able to eat up the run. So I do like when they play at the same time, because I think they just both bring a little bit. They both bring something different to the field.
Yeah, and I don't even know how much Zane Durant played against UMass now that I think about it.
Yeah, he was definitely the star of the Northwestern game. But
Next question here is from Lucas Powers, longtime listener of the show. Are our wide receivers good enough to catch deep balls? There's a lot of ex-Penn State receivers who catch some of the ones that happened during the UMass game. I have seen Keandre Lambert-Smith catch deep passes. In fact, I think he has some records still at the Rose Bowl. I have seen Trey Wallace even catch a deep pass against Michigan. Maybe another one, if I'm remembering correctly. I've seen other wide receivers catch deep passes. Amari Evans has caught some deep passes. Dante Cephas in his day has caught some deep passes. I think they have the ability. I'm not worried about the ability. I think it's just the clip, the percentage of which they will catch those is the difference. Do you have to take 10 shots to complete one of them? Because that's something Ohio State will live with. Or are you able to come down with more? But it reminds you guys again, Keandre Lambert-Smith was able to force 2 pass interferences on Saturday. So that's a good positive too coming out of that, which I know people won't like as much, but that's still a positive in my opinion. So I think they're good enough. I don't know how much you really need to do it as much as you need to be able to make sure you catch and consistently catch the football. The way they go with the hitch routes, the drag routes, that to me is more important that you're catching the football rather than hitting the deep ball. But yeah, they have the ability to do so.
yeah, I mean, KLS has shown that. Like you said, the Rose Bowl, great example. West Virginia this year, good example. So I don't think it's a matter of could they, it's just doing it. I'll be transparent though. They're the only 2 guys that really necessarily trust on the deep ball. I think they have the ability to do it, but it's just, I mean, Omari Evans had the deep pass last year, but Omari Evans has been invisible this year. He has 1 catch, and I don't know all the details with him, but he hasn't done anything. And Dante Cephas, he played, but he didn't do very much against UMass. And if there's, I really wish we had a Deshaun Hamilton on this team. I mean, obviously you want a Chris Godwin, obviously you want an Allen Robinson, but just a compliment to Keandre Lambert-Smith and Harrison Wallace, a guy like Deshaun would really come in handy in this offense.
See, I thought that's what Trey Wallace was going to be, and the Amari Evans is going to be that other deep threat or something to those degrees. But we have not seen that yet. Thankfully, they have 2 really good tight ends. So.
And we have time.
Right. Couple, like 5 days.
Yeah, do or die. No pressure.
We'll get to that actually in a second. Before we get there, second last question from Einstein von Braun, Mr. What are the keys to getting off to a faster start offensively against Ohio State that we haven't done against Illinois and Northwestern? Sean, to me, this is the best question because as I begin to look at this game and break this game down, I begin to wonder and question how this offense is going to fare on the road. How are they going to bring their own juice? And, well, even at home, they haven't necessarily had fast starts. How do they get off to a faster start offensively?
Good question, right? Because in every game, really, going back to Delaware, we start slow. Even, I mean, we put up 63 points against UMass, still started slow. Illinois, we started slow. Northwestern, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's just who we've been. And like I said, I almost feel like we haven't talked about that enough. And I really don't want to go down 7-0 at the Horseshoe. It's not a very fun place to be trailing in. I think get Drew Aller in a rhythm. I don't think that was something that happened either time on the road against Northwestern or Illinois. There really was no rhythm. We had some mistakes. That was the Illinois game. That's where Malik McClain had the drops. And then speaking of receivers, we never saw Malik McClain again. And Northwestern, if I know it was a special teams play, Singleton fumbles the opening kickoff. I mean, so both times that we've been on the road this year, we started with blunders. And you just can't have that against Ohio State. So I think stick to what you do well, which is that ball control offense. Get you some easy throws, mix in the run, don't make mistakes. And I think it'll take care of itself.
Yeah, don't fumble the opening kickoff would be a good start. Don't have those
That's
drops
helpful.
would be an additional thing too, right? I think honestly starting Kaytron Allen would help, to be honest with you, because he'll keep you on schedule a little bit more. He seems to carry the pile a little bit more, put you in a couple more third and shorts, third and manageable situations. I think what they were doing early in the UMass game is the recipe. Get Keandre Lambert-Smith involved, some quick, easy throws for Drew Aller. Even a slant route to Trey Wallace was a good throw, good catch. Was going to have a first down, and they were moving in the right direction, right? So I think that was the right recipe. It just didn't work out. And they were moving the ball. They were moving the ball a little bit before that too, and they got kind of behind the sticks there. But that to me is it. Allen, quick throws, get Keandre Lambert-Smith involved, and go from there. So that's obvious, kind of, but I think that's the biggest thing right now, and limiting those mistakes. And realistically, not that you have any say in the matter, but you would really benefit from your defense going on the field first. If you can find a way to win the coin toss and let your defense go out in the field first, I really don't want to see the offense go on the field first on Saturday, to be honest with you. I really don't want to. Let the defense go out there. Let them, if you want anyone to set the tone of the game, let your defense have the opportunity to do that. And I'm not even going to say that's going to be a gimme, right? But have more faith in them doing it than the offense to set the tone early in the game.
I prefer to defer as well. I think you lean on what you do best, and that's defense. And also, I like winning the middle eight. I think in a game like this, it could be pretty critical.
Yeah, I think it's. I would actually disagree. I think the fourth quarter is the most important in these games. If you look at the team who typically,
I didn't say most important. I said critical.
Yeah. You look at who has the lead in a fourth quarter going into the fourth quarter often loses this game, and which is just insane. But I mean, is the truth. Well, I guess it's not always the case, but a lot of the times it feels like that's the case. And anyway, I agree. Do what you do best. If you're a really good offensive team, maybe you go get the ball first, set the tone, right? If you had faith that you could run 8 minutes off the clock and score a touchdown and go up 7-0 with 7 minutes left in the first quarter, great, go do it. But right now, let the defense go do it. Maybe McCord makes an early mistake. See what you're going up against offensively. See what they have available in their arsenal. Is Mbuka healthy? Is Henderson or the other three running backs, are they healthy? And then maybe make decisions on how aggressive you want to be on offense. Maybe you can just wear them out and win the game in the fourth quarter. Or maybe, oh shoot, they just went down the field and scored in 4 plays. We're going to be in a freaking shootout. Maybe that changes your mindset a little bit. All right, Sean. Our scouts had asked the deep question to round us out for the night. This will be our final question. Again, guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, please make sure you've liked the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on podcast form, please make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening. Thank you guys so much for being here, because you probably won't agree with us after this question. Or I think Sean and I probably will disagree a little bit too. The question from our scats: do you think this is a career-defining game for head coach James Franklin. Right or wrong, it feels like the national perception of him hinges on this outcome. Sean, I'll let you go first.
I'm going to give a long answer here, but here we go. All right, so Franklin has had a few career-defining games. First one you think of is 2016 Ohio State. And look, I have some thoughts on the 2016 Ohio State game, so I'm going to do a little detour here. Block kick was great. I'm tired of seeing it. Why am I tired of seeing it? Because to me, it's a reminder that's the last time we beat Ohio State. I mean, guys, I was still in college. I'm balding. I'm engaged. I've done a lot in my life. I've had 2 full-time jobs. I have a cat. We've gone through 3 presidents. A lot of things have happened, and we still haven't beaten Ohio State. So when I see the block kick, I just think, yeah, last time we beat them. So it almost depresses me a little bit. And I want to make some new memories. And I love those guys. It was one of the best nights of my life, but I want to make some new memories. And I want to beat these guys. Finally, I just want to do it. Is it a career-defining game? Yeah, I think so. I think it is. And it's the first time since 2017 that I've really thought we've had equal team than Ohio State or a better team than Ohio State. I said at the beginning of the year, I think we're going to win. Holding off my prediction till Wednesday. But you have to feel pretty good about this game. And at some point, you got to just go do it. And I know it's on the road. I know we got to go to the shoe. I know it's a hard place to win a game. A good team, if you're as good as Penn State fans think we could be, you go and win this game. You put your big boy pants on, go on the road, and get a big win. And I think this is the team that needs to make the title run. A lot of people think it's next year. I don't. We lose a lot of guys this year. I think you got to make your move this year. This is not the same Ohio State team as last year, certainly not from 2019 or 2020. There's no Justin Fields. There's no CJ Stroud. There's no boogeyman defensive end. I know JTT tore us up last year, but he's not Chase Young or Nick Bosa. Go get this done. I think they got to go get it this year. So yes, I think this is a career-defining game for James Franklin.
Would debate you on the 2018 game. I think Penn State honestly wasn't as talented as Ohio State in 2016, but was more talented in 2017 and 2018. Now, I know they had 1 or 2 really good players in the 2018 team, but I think they were better in 2017 and 2018, which, I mean, just kind of frustrates it and makes your point even more painful.
18 team was just so frustrating.
Yeah. So is this a career-defining game for James Franklin? I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is because they still get to play Michigan the following game. Let me say that again. They still get to play Michigan later on in the season. Does that kind of pass the buck down a little bit to Michigan as the defining game? Sure, absolutely. Would I then argue that one of these 2 games has to be a win to define James Franklin's tenure as a success? Yeah, probably. I would say that's true. So the pressure isn't specifically on this game for James Franklin. It's on this game or Michigan. So if he goes out and beats Ohio State, pressure's off when it comes to Michigan to a certain degree. But also, I would also say this. Penn State is playing with house money. Everybody already thinks that Penn State's not in Ohio State and Michigan's tier. Everyone already thinks that nationally. People already don't think that Penn State can hang with Ohio State or Michigan. They already think that. They already say, oh, they're going to get blown out by Ohio State. They're going to get blown out by Michigan. Doesn't matter. That is already the national perception. So if you lose, they just all say they're right. Whoop-de-doo. But if you win, then you are a part of the crew. And all those people are wrong. But there's absolutely no pressure on them to win this game in Columbus. when everyone's expecting them to lose. And everyone must go, just another Penn State season. But I will say this, if they lose both to Ohio State and Michigan, very much a defining moment and a disappointing moment at that. I am really seriously up in the air on where I want to go with this game, and that's why I'm glad we have until Wednesday night. Part of me thinks the team and the coaching staff is confident about this game. Truthfully, I think they are very much confident about this game. But good teams have gone to Columbus and have died before, and that's not just Penn State teams. That's a lot of teams, and so going out there and winning is difficult. I will always feel better playing at home. I think, Sean, you and I agree. Like, Ohio State is probably not as good as Michigan at this point, and so and Penn State probably matches up better with Ohio State. So if both these games are on neutral field, I think we'd both rather say they have a better chance against Ohio State. I will say this, though, Sean. If James Franklin and company are able to go out to Ohio State and win, the pressure is completely off the rest of the year. They can win, lose, close to Michigan, doesn't really matter. They have a win at Columbus on their resume. Now, I already know how the people are going to recalibrate their minds if Penn State wins out there, and then it's going to go, oh, now he can't beat Michigan and they can't win the big game, and now Ohio State's actually not very good. I know how all those people twist their minds and recalibrate themselves after every game and their expectations. But I don't know, Sean. I'm very much excited for this game as I am terrified.
Good way to put it. The truth is, national perception is already James Franklin can't win a big game. Whether it's true or false, I mean, I would say the Rose Bowl was a big game, but the perception is he can't beat Ohio State. And look, guys, he's beat them once. And he's been here a long time. So yeah, it's time to win. And I think I speak for a lot of Penn State fans when I say that. Like, it's time to just go do it. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but teams have done this before. I saw Michigan State go in there with the third string quarterback and win. So it's not like some impossible feat to go into the shoe and get a win. It's not. We could do it, and it's just time to do it. Like, when you look at the way we match up with them, yeah, the matchups really benefit us. And then you factor in they're more banged up than Penn State is. For the first time in a long time, I trust our quarterback more than I trust Kyle McCord. Is Drew perfect? No, but I trust him. I wish his completion percentage was better on the road because it's nothing to brag about. But that could be for several reasons. He didn't have a true number his receiving core. He was missing Harrison Wallace, but I do have more trust in him than I would Kyle McCord going up against our defense.
Yeah. We'll be diving into Ohio State very much more in the next episode on Wednesday night. You can check us out live on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. This is going to be a fun week. There's going to be a lot of stuff. I've been really trying to dive into Ohio State podcasts to get their perspective on it, trying to see, I thought, like, no knock to some, but like 24/7 Sports obviously has different, not affiliations, but obviously different teams that and those people that cover those teams. Lions 24/7 Sports is 10 times better than whatever's going on in a lot of these other places. It's not even really close. Like, I think, and maybe I'm just biased, but I genuinely think the Lions 24/7 guys are pretty unbiased compared to the other 24/7 Sports guys that cover their teams. The Ohio State ones especially. I mean, wow. But there was a lot of takes out there. A lot of people, someone thought that our kicker has missed 4 field goals this year, and I was like, that was a different guy that's missed 2 of them, but that's fine. One guy said that Ohio State would have landed Drew Aller if it wasn't for Quinn Ewers.
They're wrong.
One guy said that because Drew Aller's from Ohio and probably grew up always wanting to play for Ohio State, that he's going to be more nervous than a normal player coming in to play at Ohio State, and he's going to be, more in the, I guess, phased by that. There's one guy said that Penn State doesn't pass the eye test even, and that they shouldn't even be a part of the tier with Michigan and Ohio State, which if you want to make that second point, fine, but not passing the eye test. A lot of Ohio State fans talking about Penn State's resume and how they haven't played anybody at all yet, which, okay, fine to a certain degree. I guess like you could say that. UMass, not good. Delaware, not good. But besides Notre Dame, Ohio State really hasn't played anybody either. I just think that's kind of funny at this point. Like, we're all in the Big Ten. We're all gonna play like 80% of the same teams. So, I thought there was some really funny stuff out there, Sean. But I mean, you and I are both gonna dive deep this week, and I mean, this is the one of two big games. So we're gonna give you all the best that we can, and glad that you guys are listening to us.
Oh, by the way, screw Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. Those guys were talking nonsense about James Franklin's supposed shot at Michigan. Just
going to be
clowns.
Really awkward for them during the game prep interviews. Because James Franklin knows about that.
Oh, yeah, and I hope he brings it up. I hope he brings it up at the press conference this week.
Yeah, that'd be great. I wonder if maybe Donnie Collins will ask.
Yeah, Buckeye and Wolverine pom-poms. I think Gus holds the Wolverine ones, and then Joel holds the Ohio State ones.
You think so? Isn't Gus an Ohio State fan?
I mean, they could just alternate. I mean, maybe they could change each week. I mean, they could just keep that whole thing going. Oh my God, I'm just gonna stop.
Well, thanks guys for being here. Again, we'll be back Wednesday night. Lots of state media. They had their downtown live show at Champs for Adam Brenneman podcast with Penn State's men's basketball coach Mike Rhodes. They had Christian Hackenberg, Brandon Bell, the Pocket podcast. I think Adisa Isaac and Chop Robinson joined them. And then I think I saw Theo Johnson. I think Devon Ellies was down there with the Lions Dead podcast with Nick Dawkins, Jerry Cross, and Aeneas Hawkins. So lots of content going to be coming out from there as well this week, I'm sure. So make sure to check that out as well at State Media. And make sure you're following us at Hardcore PSUFB, and make sure to get your pick 'em in. That's all I got, Sean.
Yeah, that looked like a fun time down there, so definitely check that out. And
I almost ditched you and just went down there instead. Just let you do it solo, and I'd just go drink some beers and watch them.
Well, thanks for joining me, Cory. But yeah, definitely check that out. And we have a big pregame this week. This is the biggest one in some time. And I was already saying last night to my fiance, I'm nervous, and she's like, the game's in 6 days. I'm like, I know, but this one just feels bigger. And we went to see the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert in the movie theater. And as I'm driving home, I just randomly bring up the game, and we talked about the whole ride home. So, I mean, that's just kind of where my head is right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a long week for everybody, no doubt about it. So
yeah,
that's why we'll be here. Film Room will be out tomorrow on Twitter at Hardcore PSUFB. Until Wednesday night, that's Sean Kane. I'm Cory Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. See you guys.